are live on YouTube and just setting up now. Let's see, make sure I can see comments on YouTube for anyone joining us. Let's see. Oh, here we are. All right, here we go. And let me see, I can see comments. Yep, I'll be able to see comments now.
Yay.
So if anybody's joining us live on YouTube, you can type in the comments and Kirti and I will be able to answer your questions. We're really excited for this topic. And let's go ahead and go live on Instagram. Here we go. Okay, I'm live, Kirti. Are you?
I'm not seeing your live yet.
Okay.
It doesn't say you're live yet. Hold on, let me reload. There you go.
My volume is down. Welcome. This is Kirti and Natasha, Goddess Vibrations, the Sexual Spiritual Empowerment Show. Kirti is piping in right now. And there we are. And tonight we are going to talk about how to stay juicy in a patriarchy. Okay, where is that echo coming from?
Well, I just turned on my volume. Oh, I see. I can hear myself double on you. I see hearts. Yay.
Yay. Thank you for hearts. Okay. All right. Does it sound good now? We're good?
Sounds really good.
All right. I'm seeing like myself in 3 different screens. It's kind of tripping me out.
Mad Max.
Yeah. The real thing is Kirti and I decided to have a toast today. She's got her wine and I've got my sparkling sake because this is a big topic. And sometimes being juicy
requires drinking juice.
Sipping on a little juice. So go ahead and join in with us if you like, if you are at home and that's your thing, while we talk about this. So where do we begin? Where do we begin with this topic?
I think we should start with defining the patriarchy for some folks. Like that was a couple of DMs that I got. It was like,
you did? Okay.
Yeah, like what do you think, what is the patriarchy? Does it mean you hate men? That's why I made that little post that I made.
Yeah, it's interesting that people still think that when you mention a patriarchy, it means that you hate men. So let's deconstruct that a little bit. What's your definition? What's your definition of a patriarchy? And I'll pipe in or add mine.
Really? Oh, I get to go first?
Yeah.
Exciting. All right. Peace and love to all the folks tuning in. For me, patriarchy is like a system that was set to maybe support and also kind of manipulate the feminine energy on the planet. And the feminine energy is in male bodies and female bodies and all the bodies in between. So when we talk about the patriarchy, it's really the system that keeps down the feminine energy of creativity, of nurturing, of healing, of adaptability, agility. And that just means like almost like the breeze between the trees, and it tries to control the breeze so that it can only blow in certain ways and certain areas and directions, and tries to take away almost the natural expression of all of our beings, which is truly the divine feminine power, which I also know as Shakti. So that's how I would, in a spiritual sense, define that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was actually reading about today, because I saw in your post that you mentioned Shakti, and I was like, I know Shakti is like power, but that's all I really know. Like I need to know more because I don't have that, strong yoga background. I do yoga, but I don't really know much of the background and I know a little bit about Ayurvedic medicine, but not so much about Hinduism, right? And so I'm reading about Shakti, and that's what it's saying. It's like a divine creation energy that is sort of like this. It's sometimes considered feminine and sometimes considered just like all one. It's just
Yeah.
the energy that creates life, which could be like Mother Gaia or the planet, which again we say Mother Gaia, right? We think of it as
Right.
feminine. So I found that interesting. And then I was looking at some of my books that I have from some of my research. So
Mm.
you mentioned before that academics, so Kirti and I are both academics. We both are highly educated, but we also like to, make these fun conversations, not like really nerdy conversations, but you still got to throw some of that in there. And I'm really excited about having Habib on in a couple weeks. We're going to talk about squirting and
Yeah.
female ejaculation. And so I pulled out some of my books. So there's one,
Mm.
and then there's this one,
Oh yeah.
Good Sex, Feminist Perspectives from the World's Religions. And this book is a little bit more, well, we'll use the word dry, but it's very academic. And this was written in 2001. And it goes through like all the major religions, and it talks about how patriarchy operates in those various religions and cultures. And I didn't get all the way through, but one thing that was really interesting is that relates to what you're saying is in Brazil, there was a study done that showed, I think, only 23% of women were orgasmic with their partners. Yeah, and then, again, Habib talks about the orgasm gap, which is
Right. Right. It's
got really
big.
interested about that. And then another thing that Habib talks about is Islam and how
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these mystical, the origins of these religions were very egalitarian. It was very much about the balance, even Taoism, masculine feminine balance. And that in modern day, or more, maybe not modern day, but more modern day Islam, they saw something happened where, as opposed to it being a balance of masculine and feminine, the feminine was perceived as wild, like you were saying, like the breeze, like the wind. And then the masculine felt the need to control it because it could be dangerous.
Right.
And so here we are doing a show on sexuality and
Mm.
spirituality and energy. And, we get in trouble being women and showing our sexuality because we're considered dangerous still, I feel like, in some ways. So I feel like, yes, a patriarchy is a system of hierarchy
Mm.
where the woman has traditionally come below the man because he's her master controller or whatnot. And there's certain drawbacks to that, particularly sexually.
Right.
And that could be, like this book was saying, again, it was 2001. I'm curious to see what the more modern day statistics are, but
Right.
that women just aren't as orgasmic as men because you're not focused on her pleasure, you're focused on shutting down her sexuality
When
because
you're focused on power,
power. There you go.
not
She's
on
got too much
pleasure.
power. And I've often said that the reason why sexuality is so suppressed, I believe, on in modern day times, is because it's the one area that men sort of feel out of control.
Mm.
Their desire is aroused so much that they feel like they would do something stupid or something out of control. And so that's something that, again, it has to be suppressed and boxed up and shamed and whatever else so it doesn't, you know, get anybody in trouble.
Right, right. And I mean, ultimately, also, the for Shakti to occur, there has to be a Kundalini. And I know that
Mm,
that's a big part of, a lot of your talks is the Kundalini awakening. But the
mhm,
Kundalini is about creativity. So if the masculine energy, and I'm just talking about the masculine energy in all people, is feeling like it should be embarrassed or it's protecting oneself from being fully creative and openly expressed, you're not going to be able to interact with yourself in an open creative way that's going to allow you access to a more orgasmic life. And if you're not able to do that, how do you expect to go ahead and interact with one or more people in an open creative orgasmic way? So yeah, the masculine energy within all of us is really truly there to support what the feminine energy wants to organically express,
mhm.
you know?
Absolutely, and that balance gets lost. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about how the actual, maybe true, pure definition of a patriarchy perhaps maybe that's it's not a bad thing if it's simply
Right.
referring to a society organized by men or by the male lineage. But it's the imbalance of power that became the problem. And again,
Oh, right.
and then like you're saying, it does hurt men too, because it doesn't allow them access to that juicy divine feminine in the fully expressed way, whether that's within them or with their partner. And then all of these other things that happen for both women and men, where they have to live in this narrow little box of masculinity
Right.
or femininity. And if you want, I always say, if you want to be in the box, that's great. If you want to be out of the box, that's great, but nobody should tell you that you should be in the box or out of the box, but you can go
Mm.
wherever you want to go for that whole.
Right. And I feel like, even in a matriarchy,
Mm-hmm.
if the matriarch is not in touch with their feminine energy and is just being more masculine, that is also not supporting the feminine energy. And
Absolutely.
we can call it matriarchy, patriarchy, whatever you want to call it, but
Mm-hmm.
truly it is about the balance of those two energies. And I think in the time that we're in today, it's truly that we need to like support the feminine energy even more and bring it up. It's in the negative zone,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's in the negative zone where we're pulling arts out of schools.
Mm-hmm.
We are not allowing men to be emotional in positions of power. It's seen as
Mm-hmm.
a weakness. I mean, frankly, we continuously have songs, pop media songs that are about men showing up with a car and having a big dick, or like all of these things that it's like, that doesn't determine your orgasmicness, right?
Yeah.
I'm just telling
Yeah.
you myself, like that has nothing to do with the pleasure you experience in the bedroom, and like we continuously think sometimes that what we've been schooled as feminism and maybe even female empowerment a lot of times is us just mimicking, literally mimicking and copying the patriarchy, but it's
Yeah.
not healing the feminine.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
staying juicy in the patriarchy requires us to dive deep within ourselves and unlock
Mm-hmm.
the authentic creativity
Mm-hmm.
that really cannot come from anybody else besides your own willingness to learn about yourself and dive deep into your own shadows so that you can liberate yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I think of, that toughness too that goes with whether it's man or woman being overly masculine and not not engaging in self-care, not never letting yourself
Ah,
rest
yes.
and retreat and just be. I spent the whole weekend pretty much in my pajamas, just retreating and not wanting to go anywhere. And I had even somebody ask me if I wanted to set up a Zoom call, and I said, it's not a good day. I just feel like I have to go inward today. I'm just feeling that. But a patriarchy often doesn't let you do that. It's saying
Right.
harder, faster, better, do this
Longer.
longer. Yeah, do
Right.
this. Like, no time to rest. You can rest, when you're exhausted or whatever. And so all of us are conditioned, like you said, to do this, whether we're man or
Hmm.
women. And it robs us of our vital energy. It robs us of our
Totally.
immune response. Our health starts to go. So it's not just about sex, it's about your vital energy. People
Right.
are waving on IG Live. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. I saw Jess's comment. My new favorite word is Kundalini. So we've
Yeah.
been doing the booty shaking workouts and on beat fitness. We met in that class a couple of years ago, the live class. And so now with quarantine, we're meeting up and doing it together. And
Oh,
she's
I
like,
love that.
yeah, she's like, I don't know what Kundalini is, but I love it. My new favorite
Yes, it's
word.
like, what, call it what you want, man.
And so
I always make this joke. I'm like, yeah, Kundalini makes you kind of leany, makes you kind of lean to the left. You don't, you're not, you never walk, you never, whatever this term is like, we straight. I'm like, yeah, no, you queer after Kundalini. You always kind of leaning to the left or the right. You're not going to be the norm anymore once you've tasted that nectar.
oh yeah, open up. Yeah, and my guest next week is going to come on and talk about his Kundalini awakening. So
Oh,
we
yay.
are going to dive deeper into Kundalini for everybody who's curious about that. Okay, so well, I thought it might be helpful. We talked about a little bit of theoretical overview. I thought it might be helpful to give some examples of maybe personal examples of like how have you been harmed maybe by the patriarchy, or where have you gotten maybe a slight, or you're like, oh, or triggered or something like that.
Well, as a school leader, I was served as a principal and administrator for 6 years in a charter school here in Chula Vista in San Diego, and I was repeatedly told like, don't hug the students, don't touch the students. I
Mhm.
was in an elementary school, and I vehemently was just like, "What are you talking about? Don't touch the student! Like a child is crying
Oh.
and I am going to touch that child and I am going
Mhm.
to hold them and I'm going to let them know that they are loved and they are
Mhm.
seen and they are felt. And I'm going to hear about their fears and I'm going to take the time. I don't care if my schedule says that I have something going on, but I'm going to take the time to talk to the student. And anybody who knows me or who has known me in that capacity, that was a big thing where if there was a student or their family that needed me, it was like, yeah, we're going to clear the schedule. That this is more important. Family is more important. Connection is more important. But yeah, this was definitely something that was written up in my file that I had poor time management for that reason. So that's a huge example right there when you take the time to actually listen to your constituency or listen to the people that need you, but you're told there's not enough time. Time is a big sign of the patriarchy, and it's a big
Mhm.
restriction,
Linear.
oh gosh, on our expression.
Mhm.
And then physical touch, don't touch those kids, really. I'm not a pedophile. And that just shows you that, like, because we have had people who have twisted intentions in positions of power, that those of us who are here to heal our communities are told that we shouldn't be doing that, like hugging our students or letting students hug each other, instead of really doing the research and seeing what people are feeling like with positive connection and interaction in community settings. I was also told, principals don't cry in front
Mhm.
of their staff. Principals do not cry. They do not, that's a weakness. And
Mhm.
I sat in plenty of city council meetings with mayors and boards of schools. And, it's just like, why are we all dressed up in suits? I mean, even the women are wearing business executive suits with somewhat tie looking outfits. The only thing is heels, I suppose, that makes a woman sexy, which is funny. So a man gets to walk comfortably on his feet while a woman has to consistently be on point in high heels in a very awkward position so that her hips move a certain way to remind everybody that she is a sexual object. I mean, personally, that's just, at the end of the day, after 6 years, it started to kind of make me a little sick, where I
Mhm.
was like, wow, like I can't wear a suit like a man in these meetings. I can't sit like the men sit. However, I have to act like you. So it felt like a lot of double work to be in a position of power
Mhm.
within the patriarchy. And that's just on the professional level. Before I hand it to you, I want to talk about the personal level.
Mhm.
I grew up as an Indian American in this country. My parents are from India. And in a lot of ways, I think arranged marriage is patriarchy. The fact that somebody is setting up our futures. And I understand the beauty of arranged marriage. I've had plenty of very wildly successful arranged marriages in my family. And I also have seen examples of arranged marriages that are due to women being in love with somebody else, but they're not allowed to be with those men. So those relationships are secrets. Their true desires are having to be kept secret. And sometimes they are, marrying outside of what they truly want, in order to serve the patriarchy, in order to serve to serve the status quo of, maintaining a certain image. So on a personal level, that's the patriarchy. And then that just has a trickle down effect, at least for me. And I can only speak in it from, the Indian American point of view. That means that I have to be more marriageable. So that means from a very young age, whether or not I like cooking and cleaning, I better learn how to cook and clean. I better learn how to sew. And as a dancer, dancing was like, yes, be an amazing dancer until you're married. And after you're married, you don't do that with your body. Your body is now, it's married, and, don't really show that. I don't know if the patriarchy realized, like, yes, I love dance. And I was like, and I'm sticking with this for the rest of my life. And in fact, it made me very unmarriageable, right? Because what type of a woman puts herself on stage like that at that age? And so, it has a whole trickle down effect of how are we supposed to be, and just shaping our existence and expression. So those are too personal. I guess I'm talking about personal and professional for me in terms of the patriarchy. I don't know. I could go forever and
I mean,
so
that's
long on this.
and
So
I think
I'm going to
every woman
pause.
could, right? Every woman could, because there's been so many things, and sometimes we're even asleep to it. We don't even realize because we're just used to it. That's just the way things are. It's a status quo until you start, like, there's some injustices that are very overt and very apparent. You're like, hey, but
Oh, what you just said made me just realize something too.
mm-hmm,
Also, on the personal level, as a dancer in America, patriarchy, that I'm only allowed to move my body in certain ways
mm,
to be liked. So either I need to be twerking, it needs to be booty popping,
mm-hmm,
and I better have big breasts, a skinny waist, and big hips. It's not like I can just be thick all around or thin all around. But like
mm-hmm,
I better mimic the video vixen, or I better mimic the anorexic Vogue model to be admired and adored as a dancer and to make it. Auditioning for New York City dance companies was grueling and traumatic, to say the
mm-hmm,
least. In some settings, it was like thicken up. In other settings, it was like lose weight. It's just wild that we can't just allow bodies to be what they are in expression. And then it's like you constantly see it in photos. Like women are hecka conditioned. Like they gotta pop up on releve with one foot and get the hip edge
mm,
in, so it looks like their booties that perfect shape and that perfect curve, instead of just being like, this is what I am.
mm-hmm,
It's like
mm,
where the conditioning, it trickles down into everything, to where we as women then, how we even will judge each other through the eyes and the lens of patriarchy. That shit, that the oppressor and the manipulator, which is us, is real, when we don't even need the patriarchy to tell us what to do. Women
already
ourselves will do that to
conditioned.
each other.
Women
We'll
are
let you
usually,
know you're too
yeah,
fat to wear that.
we're the worst. I
Right.
believe that we're the worst. So I want to make that clear too with this topic. For any men that have joined us, then you weren't afraid of the topic. Thank you for being here, because it's nothing to do with not liking men and not honoring men. It's really about this system that was designed. But yeah, women, we're the biggest upholders, I feel like, of the patriarchy. And I'll give you an example. Last night, I saw this Instagram post that just had me kind of boiling because it's a big Instagram influencer comedian. She's got over 1 million followers. She's Canadian. I won't say her name, but people might know who I'm talking about. Um, Beautiful blonde hair, fake boobs, um, speaking a lot about freedoms and whatever else. But she actually made like a parody video, kind of like making fun of women who, like, they're like doing the stories like this or the sexual stuff, Kardashian style or whatever. And she said, I will vote for whichever candidate makes this illegal. And I was
Mm,
like, oh, because we need more presidents policing women? Like, and in the same token, you shamed a woman. And in the same token, you just took the opportunity to do exactly what they're doing it. I think it's fine if you want to be, you and I have
right.
had this conversation before, and
Mm,
we differ a little bit on our viewpoints of it, but
mm,
I feel like women should go full Lizzo if they want to. Like
right.
go
Right.
out and be as sexy as you want to be, do what, be scandalous, whatever else, but just own it. Don't pretend like you're doing
Right.
something
I think if
else.
that's your truest expression, go
Yeah.
for it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
know your why, right? Like, know
Yeah.
your why, and own your why. Know your why and own your why, and know that it's not your right.
Yeah.
It's just your why.
Yeah.
And the woman who wants to be hippie, or the woman who wants to cover her body, or the woman, that's okay too. Like, see, this is the thing, is that the patriarchy will also only show one type of why.
Mm-hmm.
So it conditions the masses. I mean, let's look at just like hip hop. There is so much conscious hip hop out there that is not all about, booty shaking, and it's not all about, sleeping with multiple women. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of hip hop that's out there
Mm-hmm.
about questioning the system, knowing your rights, who are
Mm-hmm.
you as an individual on this planet,
Mm-hmm.
understanding the history of this country, valuing the artists in artistry of the oppressed,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we don't hear that music.
Mm-hmm.
So see, the patriarchy also will
That's,
only promote one type. So it's like,
yes.
yeah, do the sexy thing, but then let's also allow all the other You know, and when I say sexy, I mean the mass
All
media
expressions.
sexy.
Yeah,
Oh, let's,
all the
how about we get
expressions.
all expressions out there?
But also doing it for you and not for somebody else. You're not doing it for
Yes.
likes, you're not doing it for whatever. You're doing it because you're feeling yourself and you want to like, so if she's out there and she's pouring champagne over her fake boobs, I'm like, I'm here for it. I'm like, yes, but don't pretend like you're doing it just to make fun and shame other women. You know, it's just it's sad. It was really it made me upset, and especially again seeing the comment section, all these people like, oh, you're so right, I love you, all this stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much work to do. And the thing is, you know, she had another post where she's doing this. And then she's like, okay, now that I got your attention, and she's like speaking in her bra, and she's like, starts talking about pedophilia. And I was like, oh my gosh, now you're twisting
Mm,
adult female sexuality with pedophilia. That
pedophilia.
they're totally different things. Like this is, I was just like, my mind was like, like just going, popping
Yeah.
off.
I've kind of seen that trend where like women with stereotypical, and I mean stereotypical mass media influenced,
Mhm.
mass media heightened bodies will put selfies up to talk about socially conscious issues. Like
Mm,
they're kind of trying to flip the script that way.
mhm,
Um, I'm not doing that. It's not a personal desire of mine.
mhm.
I understand the psychology of it to like use, you know, allure people, but to me, again, there's something about that that's like, no, just talk about what you want to talk about. Like you don't
Mhm.
have to fake the funk at all. Like what if we were in a society where we didn't have to manipulate the manipulated?
Right, right. Well, and that's, I mean, I feel like women have sort of learned how to do that really well.
Yes.
And there's and a friend of mine says this, there's no word for, you know, there's a word for emasculating, but there's no word for defeminizing. Like you don't defeminize, and that tells you we're in a patriarchy. We don't even have a word that exists for defeminizing because we're always being defeminized in
Ah.
culture. But women
Mm.
will find a way to use her tongue, use her verbal words to just cut right to the, you know, the heart of a man, to cut him down because she doesn't have that economic power, that physical power, and we learn it generation after generation. It gets passed down. And again, this is the toxic feminine, right? It
Right.
comes down, but it's also a coping skill. It's a trauma reaction. It's not a good thing, but you can see where it comes from as well. And you know, it's about being aware of this. And again, you know, we've had a lot of talking about conscious relationships or whatnot,
Right.
but I just, you know, I have so much love for men and our fellow sisters. And I do what I'm doing. I started the show. I invited you, a super powerful woman, to come and
Mm.
co-host it with me because I feel like there's a lot of sexual healing that needs to be done. And the way that we perceive sexuality in this culture is just so off. And I want to do my part to, you know, help people relearn that, to
Mm.
re-engage with it myself in a different way, and learn the difference between sexual expression and sexual pleasure and sexual and just power and control and pedophilia and all these other things. But people just see something sexual and they don't, their brain kind of explodes. It's like it's got to be in this box of wrong or this box of, you know, of right,
Right,
pure,
right,
and
right,
they can't see the different shades. And I mean, that's why we're here.
right. I mean, we usually cannot see the different shades of sexuality when we have been dominated by one type of sexuality, and it takes either it takes a traumatic experience, the realization of a traumatic experience, or the witnessing of a
Mm,
traumatic experience to wake us up to realize that, like, oh, wait a minute, you know, what is this about? And I find that the conversation around child pedophilia and sexuality is, I really think that it really, it extends from this wound of not being able to be our inner child. And
mm,
so a lot of times the men, most of the time, that are really involved in child pedophilia, you know, it's kind of like such a lack of connection with their divine feminine and their kundalini that, you know, they have to actually steal that light
yeah.
from a child. And then the women who are involved in supporting the men with the child pedophilia, it's that they have such a lack of their own divine, their awareness of their divine feminine, that they will allow an masculine energy in a masculine body define what they have to do in order to bring out that inner child light. So there's this weird twisted feeding off
Mm-hmm.
that's happening. And you look at the brain in neuroscience, the pleasure and pain parts of the brain are one and the same when they fire off, right? I mean, and this is what's really so intriguing, is that it really does depend on our perception of how we're processing the things as they come in. And we can literally, why do we see, I mean, let's keep it real. It's sick to want to do that to a child, or to want to manipulate a woman with power for your own sexual desires. Most people would agree that there's nothing okay with that, that's
Mm-hmm.
horribly uncomfortable, and
Mm-hmm.
discomfort, causes lots of discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to understand, in order to heal that and in order to embrace that wound, because the only way we can heal the wound is to embrace the wound, open it up, not armor it, but actually open up the wound so that it can heal. In order for us as conscious being, as the keepers of the light on the planet, in order to embrace that, we have to realize that somewhere in our fellow human beings' minds, this pleasure pain thing is grossly distorted,
Mm-hmm.
and they are actually finding pleasure from causing pain.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're able to understand that true pleasure comes from bringing people together, and pain actually extends from separation,
Mm-hmm.
and dive deep into that, like, if any of these folks, these perpetrators, were able to drop in and say, how is my action causing the collective to come together,
Mm-hmm.
causing community, right? That would probably be a great first step. Even in a cult, and I'm going to speak to that because I have lots of clients who come to me who have been in Hindu cults. They've been fucked by their gurus. I'm tired of hearing about it. And we've heard about famous musicians who are sleeping with younger women, right? This is a constant thing. Healers who use their spirituality to manipulate their
Mm-hmm.
followers, right? This, what happens is, it's like, when they think of the collective, they think of just like their own community. They're not, the collective is the planet. And the collective is the integration of the masculine and feminine energy on the planet. That is the collective, the balancing of that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get real deep, we even talk about the elements, forces of nature. But let's pull back from that right now.
Mm-hmm.
We can make that metaphor in a second.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as a cult leader uses power to manipulate, not liberate, that is cultish behavior. That is pedophilic behavior,
Mm-hmm.
right? That is oppressive behavior.
And
Liberation is about the collective, bringing people together in human spirit.
I think it does come from trauma. It does come, like you mentioned, they didn't have that connection with their inner child. Their inner child didn't get what they needed. And so they're trying to find the light in a child, and take advantage of that or whatnot. But I think the trauma comes from not only a patriarchal system who sees people as objects and to be used and stepped on so that they can get ahead, um, but also traumas in families. So they were either sexually abused or physically abused.
Yes.
And if you look at, like, I talk a lot about the ACE study, the Adverse Childhood Experience Study, is probably one of the biggest trauma studies around, and it's still collecting data. It's been collecting data since 1998.
Mm.
There's a website called acestoohigh.org, and they have a blog, and they do some excellent blogs about trauma. And when the Me Too movement broke out, they talked about how about 90%, I think it was like, well, about 1 in 3 women are sexually abused by the time they're an adult of some sort. And 1 in 5 or 6 men, they think, are sexually abused. But I actually think it's closer to maybe
Yeah.
1 in 3. I think that because I've had so many adult men come to me as clients as well and say, I've never told anybody this before, but this happened with my babysitter, or this happened, or that happened, or I lost my virginity at 9, or things like that. It just hadn't been reported because it didn't even occur to them that it was abuse because of our
Right.
culture, right?
Right. Right.
But so I would guess that the rates of sexual abuse are probably pretty equal for men and women, but 90% of the perpetrators are men. And
Isn't that interesting?
yeah, and in this article that's on aces2high.org says it's because men tend to be externalizers. So they go
Right.
through pain, they go outside of themselves and hurt somebody else to deal with it or to do something outside of themselves. Women tend to be internalizers. So they get abused, they go in, they become depressed, suicidal, eating disorder, cutting, like these sorts of things. And they might also inadvertently hurt other people, but that's not their primary way. But if we can see the big, 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 big picture and look down, it's all trauma. It's all wounded people hurting each other. It's
Right.
all this human family that needs to be readjusted. And if we keep focusing, and this goes on with everything, with feminism, with Black Lives Matter, with everything, like if
Mm.
we keep focusing on the other side or the other group that
Mm.
did the hurting, and we're just going to keep passing the hot potato back and forth. And when do we ever, and Shafar and I have talked about this too, like when do we ever evolve up and heal? And we have to start doing things differently. And it just takes one person who then influences another person, they influence another person, and pretty soon you have a little group that's doing things differently. So that being said,
Yeah.
how do we stay juicy
How do we
in a
stay juicy amidst
patriarchy?
all of that?
How do we hold on to
Totally.
our light? How do we stay healed? How do we not let all of that nonsense affect us? Because I know, like,
Right.
Ogden, who I mentioned, I think last week or the week before, is a researcher who said even sexual harassment, catcalls, all the things that women face just walking down the street shuts down her shine, shuts down her
Totally.
radiance. She holds that oppression. And I can only imagine it's more with women of color
Mm.
in her reproductive organs. And I'm guessing because if you look at like the hospital rates of problems with birth and womb problems that women of color have too,
Mm.
that probably has a lot to do with the multiple levels of oppression.
Over generations of time.
Yes, yes. And so how do we live in this world, this environment that is toxic in many ways, and then still be a healthy, happy, vibrant, juicy, orgasmic, um, turned on, radiant,
Mm.
joyful woman?
I love that question because that I feel like is what really healing the planet is going to take. And ultimately, when we can do that as human beings, we start to be conscious of all feminine energy around us, and before we know it, we are up leveling the soil, and we are up leveling the womb that we are literally eating from,
Mm-hmm.
that our mothers eat from to make us into human beings. We can up level and upload whole new software systems of ways of being. And
Mm-hmm.
that is really what it's going to take to maintain the juiciness. So
Mm-hmm.
I have something that might connect to what you were talking about with the trauma within the family, but then how you were also saying that it's also like we were talking about other ways of discomfort and other ways of power and manipulation with child pedophilia, and we can go into the porn world. There's a through line there, and I think that through line is actually what will maintain our juiciness. And that through line is that we've got to literally reclaim and reparent ourselves and take that very seriously. That means be willing to see where we are repressing our expression.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not willing to see that, we will continue to blame outside of ourselves. At a certain point, we are adults with genitalia, we are adults with emotions, and you don't want to make adult decisions from a wounded child's perspective. When you are doing that, you are usually, lashing out, and you are usually externalizing an internal struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order to solve that or to heal that, I think that we've really got to take it seriously to reparent those wounds.
Mm-hmm.
And that means rebuilding the relationship with yourself, going back. Those folks who are struggling with sexuality or orgasmicness,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of times we look to our partners to solve and heal that.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And the
they're not
truth
doing it
is,
right. Yeah.
right. And it's like, or, I don't know how many women I've had book sessions with me. Teach me how to be sensual. Teach me how to be sexy. My man doesn't think I'm sexy enough. My man doesn't think I'm sensual enough. And ultimately, again, that's the patriarchy telling you how to be. Because the
Mm-hmm.
truth is, you can be sensual in sweatpants.
Mm-hmm.
You can be sensual in any way that you want. You could be sensual gardening. You can be sensual cooking. You can be sensual sewing. You can be sensual even arguing, believe it or not, because that's the
Mm-hmm.
other piece of it too. If we want to maintain the juiciness within the patriarchy, men and women have to freaking get it together to get together and learn how to really talk about
Mm-hmm.
these concerns. Because a lot of times a man loves the fuck the patriarchy attitude in the bedroom. Ooh, he loves that. The man
Right.
loves the fuck the patriarchy attitude when it's like, we don't need to work for the matrix. We're going to launch our own business.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they love that. But then when it comes to, I'm emotional, I'm wild, and I'm fucking crazy, all
Yeah.
of a sudden, you're too much.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Tone that down. Why are you so deep?
they
You're so deep and dark all the time. Why are you feeling everything?
you're just bad vibes.
Yeah, can't you let that go? Like we were having such a good day and now it's just like you're
Yeah.
complaining. No, this is everything. And the more we can accept each other for all of each other,
Mm-hmm.
all parts of ourselves, when women can start to truly accept all parts of themselves, they have the power to
Mm-hmm.
define the relationships with men where men will be inspired to start accepting all parts of themselves because men will start to
Mm-hmm.
feel their own feminine energy heal. They will
Yes.
start to realize that their lack of capacity to hold space for women comes from the fucking patriarchy not giving them
Mm-hmm.
space to express
Mm-hmm.
themselves.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Have a sip of wine, Kirti. You deserved it. We're getting a lot of comments here. Um, let's see. We got somebody said that they did Grow Love Rise. She spent 5 hours doing this work with my mom today. Women Rising. That's amazing.
Welcome to the Mars retrograde. That's what this is calling from us, y'all.
Yes. Well done. Tropical Paradise 11 said, I don't like the music about sex and stuff.
Hmm.
It depends on the mood. Sometimes I don't like angry music, sometimes I do. Sometimes I like really dirty sexual music, and sometimes I don't. It really
Right.
depends on the mood. But I
And again, I
definitely
mean,
don't
it's
listen
the
to music
idea of
as the meaning.
consent, right? It's also this
Yeah.
idea of consent. Like, consent is really just like being able to speak what you feel and feel what you speak.
Yep, absolutely. Expression. Again, expression.
Look, we all got to realize our conditioning has been conditioned. I mean, I have makeup on right now. If I was truly like, fuck the system, I wouldn't really care about what I look like. But this is the truth. I do care about what I look like, and I'm not going
Yeah.
to feel bad about it.
Oh
Some days
man.
I want to wear my makeup, some days I don't want to wear my makeup. This is why the Hindus, gods and goddesses have one foot down on the ground and the other one elevated. It's like be
Mhm.
transcendent, but
Yeah.
also know the world you live in. That is the ultimate path. That's where you find the balance.
Yeah.
As dancers, we have to, we talked about the box. It's like, hey, be in the box, be outside. But
Yeah.
look, regardless, we all have to realize once your infinite being is born into the restriction of this physical form, you have entered the box like a motherfucker. You have
Yeah.
entered the box. Welcome to the box. Get to know that box.
Yeah.
Once you know the box, you can expand beyond the box.
Mm-hmm. Get to
But if
know it.
you
Yeah.
don't want to get to know the box and you avoid the box and you armor the box and you judge the box, what
That's
can
where
you
most people
expand
are.
from?
Yeah, and that's where most people are, I feel. And
Right.
and you brought up lipstick, and you reminded me that I didn't talk about some of my experiences with the
Oh, yeah.
patriarchy.
Let's hear about those.
Well, because, okay, personally, you commented on my red lips today, and I said
Ooh.
I don't wear red lipstick often, but I do like to do it when I'm feeling tired. I didn't get enough sleep. It just adds. And you asked me, what does it do for you? And I said, I don't know, I feel a little fire or something, a little energy.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I remember applying for a job, a waitressing job when I was 19 in college, and it was in the rules and regulations that I had to wear makeup. I
Wow.
had to wear lipstick and mascara and blush and all of these things. And I remember reading that, like, what if I don't want to wear it that day? Like, what if I'm tired? Like, you're telling me that I have to wear makeup, but this man doesn't? Like, that and I do enjoy wearing makeup. I do enjoy adorning myself. But I don't like being told I have to either.
Right, right.
I want to
And I mean, I guess men sometimes, right, like they have to groom themselves in a certain way or wear a tie.
the
Uh,
hair and the beard and all of that
right.
stuff.
But
Yeah.
still, like I was talking about this, I don't remember if it was a client or a friend or what it was, but we were talking about, oh, yes, I do remember. We were talking about like the concept of the gray fox.
Mm-hmm.
And for
Oh,
women, a lot of times it's like unless you have a whole head of hair and it like looks like that's your dye job or like your whole, it's like you better cover your grays.
mm-hmm.
But yet, you know, for a man it's like esteemed, right? And it's like seen
Mm-hmm.
more as just like, oh, it's kind of sexy and old a guy as he ages. But for a woman, you know, we really, the patriarchy has really downplayed you know, women getting older. And even the concept, a lot of women don't like the term crone, you know, they don't, they
Mm-hmm.
have a hard time seeing that as something to look forward to.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the patriarchy is a political, socioeconomic system that's been set
Mm-hmm.
up for capitalism and
Mm-hmm.
for all systems of power to exist. Because if we didn't value getting aging naturally, then how would all of these creams and all of these
Yeah.
surgeries and this crazy, ridiculous, I mean, living in San Diego, it's disgusting to look in the reader. And I don't know how many pages of
Plus,
plastic surgery ads.
yeah.
I mean, it's how they make all their money in the San
Yeah.
Diego reader, right? So it's just like,
There's
really?
a chapter 2 is on capitalism and
Uh-huh.
sexuality. So that's a thing. And I feel like if you want to get plastic surgery, you want to improve yourself, again, that's feminist as fuck. Like that's it's you taking control of your body as long as it's not you're doing it for someone else or have to try to keep up with some sort of standard. And along with that, what you're saying, the different standards for men and women, the sexy pose that you see all the like men doing in magazines or whatever, it's like the wrinkled forehead, perplexed look. And yet women, they, I don't have Botox, I probably need it, but like women
No,
will go
no, you
will get
don't.
Botox for the forehead wrinkles. Like it's not okay for women
Right.
to have, but for men, that's the sexy pose. Like how did we get there? How did
Oh
it?
my
And
gosh.
for her, it's the duck pout where she needs like to add something to
To her
her
lips.
lips to be sexy. So how did we create those standards of beauty?
Right. Well, and I mean, to bring it back to maintaining your juiciness, as we talk about the pout and the lusciousness, you know, it's been also, it's a really interesting thing to maintain for me to maintain my juiciness.
Mm-hmm.
I always think of like, what would my utopian society be? What would the ideal system be? And for me, the ideal system is that we would be so loving
Mm-hmm.
of all personalities and all body types that a surgery, we would never need surgery
Mm-hmm.
for manicuring ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were to love hermaphrodites, if we were to love transgender people enough that they could be feminine in a masculine body, that they could be masculine in a feminine body, and that if women who had breast cancer didn't feel pressured to put fake boobies in, and
Mm-hmm.
that women who had small boobies would feel proud to have small boobies, and women who had big boobies could be proud to have big boobies, and people who had fucking cottage cheese and cellulite. It was just like, this is the freaking human form where we don't have to do anything for
Yeah.
anybody. You see?
It's
That
starting
would
to
be ideal.
starting to shift a little bit. I've just noticed on Instagram, even the last couple of years, you're seeing more saggy boobs, you're seeing more cellulite, you're seeing more rolls, you're seeing more natural. I appreciate it, and I'll say it is shifting my perception, and it does. There's something about seeing that all the time. It's your
Totally.
subconscious that you feel
Look,
more okay.
today, when I went to go, you know, I'm on my moon and I was like, I'm craving a little bit of extra, just I wanted some libation today. And I walked to the store, you know, I try to, one way I stay juicy, I wear a bra never. I wear a bra never.
Mm-hmm.
And the only time I wear a bra is like, I have to really feel like wearing a bra. Because I'm like, who the fuck
Mm-hmm.
invented this freaking contraption that in the heat, and then you got the
Yeah.
underwire, and then it's like you got to wear extra
Mm-hmm.
padding, and then squish your boobies together to look good in a dress. I mean, it's once I started doing that, this is like my maybe second or third year, because like I'm not in a career anymore where I have to feel pressured to be
Mm-hmm.
walking on my toes and have everything sucked up and pulled in all the time. And today on the way back from, I was walking, and yes, when I walk, my boobies shake because they are
Mm-hmm.
flesh and
Mm-hmm.
they're juicy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting. I saw a couple of cars where like people took 3 takes, probably because my breasts were shaking. And you know what? What's so beautiful when you finally make the shift against the patriarchy, you're
Mhm.
like, yeah, that's right. They move.
Mhm.
And I move just like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
When they move, I move just like that. And it's not, oh God, my boobs are shaking. And should they be shaking? Because oh my God, what does that mean? Is it fat? It's not in tone, it's not perky. It was like, yeah,
Mhm.
my boobs move and my thighs shake too.
Mhm.
And sometimes there's some cellulite when I get older and my fat thicken up. And when I'm on my cycle, I'm bloated.
Mhm.
So the more women start to own their juiciness,
Mhm.
all
The
phases of the
fullness, yeah.
moon, all phases of the moon, own your juiciness. You liberate other women, and we start a movement. And then before we know it, the male mind will shift consciousness.
Mhm.
Look, Mother Earth is willing to grow anything you put in her soil. That's how juicy we are.
Yep. It's true, and I would like to share even I share that juiciness even like academically. I know we're talking about, you know, our credentials or whatever. I actually had
Right.
an experience a year ago where I did this speaking engagement for a group of 50 women who were business owners, and I even reduced my fee because they said they couldn't pay my full fee.
Mm.
I said, well, I feel really strongly to give back to a community of women business owners and entrepreneurs because women entrepreneurs statistically make 25% of what male entrepreneurs make. And so I said, I would love to give back. And so I was going to speak on mind, body, self care, and being a woman and being a woman business owner and all of this. So part of it was sharing my story. And of course, the first couple slides were my credentials. The women seemed to love it. I had everybody, almost everybody in the crowd, fill out a speaker card and talk to me afterwards and all of this stuff. And then months later, I got a email, and then the woman who owned the business had said, maybe you can come back and speak to us again next year. And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. I had a blast. I had a great time with them. Um, and then several months later, she messaged me and she said, you know, since you had reached out, this is the feedback I'd like to give you that out of all of those slides, you gave us very little value.
Oh.
And if you look back to your slides, most of them were about you. And I was like, what? Because I put my heart and soul into this PowerPoint and preparing. I drove out of town for it. Like I stayed at my friend's house so I could be closer, to the thing. And I gave 7 years of most my wisdom points of 7 years of study and research and practice, and I condensed it and gave them, very specific tools that they could use. And I was just floored. Like how did that perception happen? And I looked back at my slides and I counted them, and I did 30 slides on the science and different things they can use, and I did 4 slides in the beginning on me,
Wow.
and like with my name, and actually 3 of those were just pictures. It wasn't even any words. I just had my credentials and the pictures, and I did share little anecdotes throughout. But I was like, how can this be? And I started Googling articles. Well, first of all, I had a person there presenting with me, and so I asked her, like, did you feel like I was talking about myself too much or my credentials? And she's like, no, she's like, you did a great job. But she took the time to think about it. She's like, you did a great job. They loved it, clearly. And I thought it was great. And I started Googling articles, and I started to see that this is a thing with women PhDs, that
Hmm.
there's little tolerance for both women and men for their education, and they are considered bossy, or they're considered arrogant for even having the credentials. And so I would say that nobody prepared me for this when I went into with my master's degree. I became a therapist, so that's a very
Mm.
woman dominated field, right? So I didn't bump up against that as much. But now with a
Hmm.
PhD, I'm bumping
You're
up against,
seeing
like,
it.
who do you think you
Well,
are?
the higher you get, you're
Yeah.
going to see it more, right?
Right. So I was
Right.
I was really blown
And quote
away.
unquote higher. In
Yeah,
quotes, higher.
but
Yes.
they, and then I've had this feedback, and I'll say it's almost exclusively from men who are less educated than me, that also will say the same thing, like, oh, you do put too much emphasis on your credentials, or things like that. And I said, but as a woman, you have to. We are overqualified for the positions we get, and men are underqualified for the positions they get, because there's still this patriarchal system that assumes that for these certain higher level positions that a man is more capable just for being a man, or even the fact that he's allowed to speak more in a boardroom and these sorts of things. And I think that's the way that it's impacted me the most. And
Mm.
so to be in my juice,
Yeah. How
I'll
do you get
say
juicy in that?
I used to hide my credentials. I used to not put them on my Instagram page. I used to just use my name and not the letters behind my name, which I am Natasha to people when I meet them. I don't usually talk about my credentials in person, but when it's a business situation, or that's what you're getting hired for, is having
Mm.
those credentials. Um, and I also read this. There's a book called Love Factually, and it's a
Mm.
social science researcher who she talks about dating, and it's a sad truth, but according to the research, this is where we're at now. Average men and women. I don't consider the folks that we hang out with. We're more conscious. We're like trying to go up and not be the regular consciousness. But average men and women tend to, men date for youth and beauty is their priority,
Mm.
and women date for financial stability and career, like a kind of a power thing. So
Wow.
it's so she even says in there, if you're a woman who's single and you're looking to date, don't talk about your credentials, don't talk about your intelligence, just accentuate, or on dating profiles, accentuate your youth and beauty
Oh,
statistically, to, if you want to beat the statistics game. And then for men, be focused on being more of a provider, having more money, accentuating your career. And
hmm.
and and I was like, I was very kind of, I was depressed after reading that, like, wow, this is really where we're at. But then I thought, that's not me anyway. Like, I'm not going to be with that person that's simply looking for youth and beauty, because if somebody
Yeah.
wants to date me because of the way that I look, I'm not interested
Right.
in them, because they're not seeing all of me, you know.
Right. And I mean, I think the important, just first of all, thank you for sharing that, because that is some deep, intense stuff. And it takes a bold person to be willing to look at and see how the system is set up. The more academic you get, the more patriarchal it gets. If there was grades and levels to it, definitely, it's like in the educational system, if you're not getting a PhD, then you're running for city council. That's the way it
Mm-hmm.
works in education. It's like
Mm-hmm.
if you're not going and moving on, and even after the PhD, you better be running some institution, you better be teaching at a university, you better, or you're running for office. I mean, it's a very common thing. And it's like all of these systems of power that we have in our country, we it's unfortunate that all human beings feel that in order to be successful and to be heard, they have to succumb to this system. They have to succumb to, like, okay, I'm going to go to college, and I'm going to get my bachelor's, and I'm going to get my master's, and I'm going to get my PhD, and then it's like, okay, what now? And for a woman, for the feminine energy in the female body, oh, and you got to have children,
Oh yeah.
and you got to serve on all of the once you have children, you have to be the classroom mom, and you have to attend the PTA meetings, and you better make sure that your man is happy.
Mm-hmm.
So what's actually happening within the patriarchy is that the feminine energy is working overtime, and I mean the feminine energy within the feminine body.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have feminine energy within the feminine body, it just tends to illustrate and paint the picture of the overall feminine. Though we
Mm-hmm.
do all have masculine, feminine, right? So she's working in overdrive.
Mm-hmm.
She's working in overdrive, and what she'll then see is a lot of women just tap out.
Well, and then she's not only working in overdrive, but society expects women to do more. Even going back to this example, I lowered my fee. I gave them my heart, my soul, the like best bullet
Right.
points of 7 years of my practice, my research, and they're like, "Oh, you didn't really do anything for us that we asked for." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I can't believe it." It just it was just mind-blowing to me, but that's how we treat women. And also even in office situations, like if there's not coffee made,
Right.
expect the woman to do it, or the men don't bother to clean up the sink in the break room or whatever. It's always the women that are tidying up. I see it even with my kids. My son will literally leave trash on the floor while
Wow.
my daughter is actually baking something.
Right.
Like,
Right.
and,
Right.
and I heard this in a podcast once, that a mom was saying that she doesn't even, like, her son doesn't even see the sock on the floor to pick it up. Her daughter will see it, but he doesn't even see it because it's so not socialized. And it's not just that household, it's in
Right.
society to be able to take care of stuff.
Right. Right.
I'm aware that we have 1 minute left.
Oh
Gosh,
no.
look at how red my face looks in this light. I look like bright red.
You're a
Um,
strawberry.
yeah, we're gonna continue
Juicy
on.
strawberry.
Juicy strawberry. I gotta turn these lights down too. I'm having a light problem because we start with the sunset and sun.
Oh, that's right. We're continuing on
But
YouTube.
join us on YouTube Live. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna give you some more tips for staying juicy. And thank you all for joining us on Instagram. So you can find us YouTube Live, Natasha Edwina, same as my profile that you joined on now. And I will be seeing you next week with Davante, and we are going to be
Mm.
talking about what is a Kundalini awakening.
Wow.
So
Yes.
Kirti and I will keep discussing this energy, and we'll see you over on YouTube Live. So I'll end this now. Bye, everyone, on Instagram. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but on Instagram I look bright, bright red, and then here I'm like,
It's like a different light. Yeah. What
whatever,
else?
whatever. It's like the different perceptions of women in the patriarchy, right? It's like
Shades,
but I'm just
shades of
here.
womanhood.
I'm red over here. I'm white over here. Yeah. So so yeah, staying
Oh, can I
juicy.
offer you something? I want to
Yeah.
offer you
Uh-huh.
something on that
Sure.
maintaining juiciness when you get feedback because I've
Mm-hmm.
been there.
Mm-hmm.
I have definitely like totally served up my heart and soul, like gone to schools and done 7-day trainings,
Mm-hmm.
right? Taught staff and like shared my personal stuff as an educator and really like poured out
Mm-hmm.
my soul. And then it's just like at the end, it's like, oh, well, we didn't do X, Y, and Z. And it's like everybody was either crying or was
Yeah.
bonding or was like
Right.
creating, started writing poetry, started talking,
Right.
thought about like how to teach better, how they can become better mentors. But
Mm-hmm.
yet, there's like, but did you hit the bullet points of what we were going to get? Right. So
Yeah.
it's like very interesting. I think in order to maintain, and I don't know if this is would resonate with you, but like for me, like I don't take feedback anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
collect no feedback forms, no matter
Mm.
what.
Mm-hmm.
I am doing the work as a
Mm-hmm.
spiritual being on this planet to be
Mm-hmm.
present and aware. So I know that in every moment I am doing my best. I
Mm-hmm.
am doing my best. And for me to collect feedback, and this is just me, for me to collect feedback means that I value your opinion so much that I'm going to deny my own intuition and what it feels. But the truth is, no.
Mm-hmm.
I am remaining juicy in who I am. And the thing is also that I'm going to show up. If you hire me, I will show up,
Mm-hmm.
heart and soul.
Right.
And those who receive, receive. Those who do not, do not. There are always you look, man, in a garden, it's like, do you expect every flower to smell the same? It's just
Mm-hmm.
not that way. That is not the natural progression of life. Like we really need to take ourselves out of this rudimentary one way of being and
Mm-hmm.
teaching.
Mm-hmm.
It is what is robbing everybody of their Kundalini awakening,
Mm-hmm.
being judged by other people. And let's keep it real. Everybody knows Yelp. How many people go and leave positive reviews? We know the psyche. We know
Yeah.
where it's at. So I just want to offer that to you, man. Like,
Thank you.
be your shine how you shine. And the people when you're shining your truest, authentic light,
Mm-hmm.
the right people just come right in. And
Mm-hmm.
and guess what? If you lose a job over that, they're not your people anyway.
Right. Yeah, that became clear to me. And I was upset for a couple days. And I was more so sad, just that because at least it's like seeing the comment section and some of these posts. I'm like, oh wow, we're really still here. And so I get sad about that. Because I knew in my heart. that I did a good job. You can feel the energy of the crowd when you're speaking, you know? And I was like, I was just baffled, like what shifted between then and now.
Right.
And, but I decided after that, I'm like, no, I'm going to own my credentials. I'm not going to throw them in people's faces, but I'm going to keep saying, yes, I do have a bachelor's and a master's and a PhD because that is true.
Yes.
And that
And
is not an
that's
arrogant
what you
statement.
do. And
That's a true statement.
exactly. And you've done the work to navigate that journey.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're quote unquote certified
Hmm.
to be able to share your knowledge. So
Yes.
now it's like, oh, wow. So I'm certified and I have to deliver my knowledge in your way, which again is directing the wind,
Hmm. Hmm.
directing your breeze.
Hmm. Yeah. Or don't seem too know-it-all or too much
Right.
this because you might offend that person or intimidate that person. I mean, there's something to being able to meet people where they're at. And I think that I'm good at that. I think you're good at that. That's not what it's about. It's more about being a blank sheet of paper for other people's projections and looking at how they perceive women in certain positions and
Yeah.
what that means. So I think again it goes back to we're really up against a lot of other women. I feel more so than men sometimes
Mm.
with them kind of unconsciously carrying out the patriarchy or sometimes being married to men where they um, choose to somewhat choose their own oppression sometimes for peace or for security or whatever else. But I think that's a topic for another day.
Totally.
um,
I've definitely seen plenty of situations where a man that is more in his feminine is clearly being taken advantage by a very toxic masculine woman.
yep,
And that is the patriarchy,
yep,
honestly.
yep,
The
it's
woman
just
has the
flipped.
woman has had to, in order to be who she's at, she's had to deny and almost dissolve her femininity to make it
Hmm.
ahead in the game. And
Hmm.
so then she actually attracts a feminine man, right? A man that's more
Hmm.
in tune with his feminine energy, and it's another imbalance of power.
Hmm. Yep.
So that's the thing, is that at some point we've got to come together as men. And when I say men and women, I mean penises and vaginas.
Right.
We've got to come together and realize that ultimately, we are reflections of one another. And just because our genitals are different means has nothing to do with our expression and our existence on this planet.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's um it's it, it has nothing to do with our expression, and the only time it does is because of what culture has created for us to
Exactly.
hurdle over, right? Jump over.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
mean,
like
to
a both, like we have to look at both, right?
yes, and to maintain the juiciness through all that, you have to question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Question everything
Thank you.
and
Mm-hmm.
relearn and unlearn and rewire and
Mm-hmm.
be willing to be bold
Mm-hmm.
if your life depended on it,
Mm-hmm.
because your life does depend on it. Because if you keep denying your creativity and if you keep denying your expression, you will get dis-ease,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's mental dis-ease or whether it's physical dis-ease.
Mm-hmm.
Your spirit has to be free.
Mm-hmm.
It is tapping into that infinite source that
Mm-hmm.
comes into this limited human physical form. So unless you again get to know your physical form and how your spirit wants to function through this
Mm-hmm.
physical form, how does it want to move this physical form, how does it want to express in this physical form and
Mm-hmm.
feel fully aligned,
Mm-hmm.
if we're not doing that work, you're going to constantly, again, look to others to define that for you.
Right.
And that's just dimming your light
Yeah.
over and over again.
And some people just had the never took the space to think about that or to think about what do I want to express, or no, weren't given the space. They're just kind of like, again, in this patriarchal world or this
Right.
capitalistic society, it's like more and more and more and more. And this is the hidden blessing of COVID too, is that everything kind of shut down, and as
Yeah.
devastating as it has been to small businesses and all these other things,
Hmm.
it also is like, well, here we are.
Expansive.
Yeah.
People have had to get so creative.
Mm-hmm. You're forced. They almost got forced into retreats, forced into self care, and some
Just,
people
yes,
went
yes.
into self care, and some people went the opposite, and
Totally. I
decided to
just had the
drink.
conversation today. I said, man, Some people got together and had babies, other people had divorces.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, and not, there's nothing right or wrong or good or bad about that, as long as
Mm-hmm.
it was about your authentic self coming out to play. Like, you might have gotten shaken up, like, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
when life stops, what am I really about? Who am I
Mm-hmm.
really? And if that questioning caused you to get close to somebody, or if that question caused you to separate, it doesn't matter. Again, that pleasure and pain is one and the same.
You're getting
It's
closer to your
all
soul journey.
exactly, as
Yeah.
long as you're getting closer to yourself, you good.
Mm-hmm.
And that is tough and it is hard.
So I think so that's you mentioned some little things like not wearing a bra, which I don't.
Right.
I'm have one on now for other people's.
Yeah.
You know, I wear a bra for other people because some people are offended by nipples and
Totally.
whatever else. I used to have my nipples pierced to purposely offend other people, so that they could be like, "Oh my God, what is that?" and look at me horrified. And yeah,
I love it.
that was the 20s, right?
That's one way to shake it up.
So anyway, now I'm with you on the bra thing,
Yeah.
but also knowing your soul journey, knowing your soul purpose, knowing who you are, and then doing certain things that are in your pleasure. I
Yeah.
feel like, so what else do you do? Let's give people just some examples of like what
Totally.
this looks like if they've never taken the space to really take up space.
Oh, I love that. I love
Hmm.
what you just said. Um, well, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is like I have a three-tier practice where it goes from I to we to be.
Hmm.
You know, I is the first through third chakra. It's my identity. I figure
Hmm.
out who I am. So to maintain my juiciness through the first through third chakra, that is my root. That's my sacral. That's my core. That's who I am. That's my purpose on this planet. That's why
Hmm.
my soul chose this body, right? And then
Hmm.
it's also, these are my gifts to share. And then it's also, what am I willing to release in the patriarchy in order to share my gifts truly and honestly? So in that I state of being, I go mind, body, spirit. How am I keeping my mind juicy in that way? Well, my mind, keeping my mind juicy means that I am consistently practicing, um, under practicing witnessing my thoughts and questioning, what is my identity? What are my gifts to share? What
Hmm.
am I willing to release? That keeps me juicy. It keeps me creative. And I love the term juicy because
Hmm.
in Sanskrit we have a term, it's rasa. And classical Indian musicians use it, classical Indian dancers use it. And rasa is emotion. It's like the feeling that you get when you watch a performance, but in cooking, it's the juiciness of the
Hmm.
food. So it's very connected to the emotion. So when
Hmm.
I feel things, my mind practice in the first through third chakra is that questioning piece, like, oh, interesting. And I try to practice witnessing as much as possible. My body and the first through third chakra, my body, the root is I practice earthing and
Hmm.
grounding. My legs
Hmm.
are an extension of the root. So wherever I put my legs, I am constantly rooting through my perineum. And
Hmm.
every exhale, I'm clenching as much as possible. And I'm feeling that I am connected when I have my
Hmm.
feet bare, even in my apartment, even I'm on the second floor. It doesn't matter because the second floor is connected to the first floor and the first floor is connected to the earth.
Hmm.
So if I'm consistently thinking about that in my body, I'm rooting. And then when I get to the sacral chakra, right? And when I get to svadhisthana, which is my gifts to share, my womb, my water, my body needs water. I drink water as much as possible. Yes, I drink lots of tea and I also drink lots of water. I drink lots of soda water. I love it mixed with
Yeah, me
juice.
too. Yeah.
And I like to drink it. And I drink water. I try to get into the water as much as I
Mm.
can. And guess what
Mhm.
else I've learned recently? When I can't get in the water, I can feel the water
Mm.
and get in the water. So
Mhm.
I can energetically awaken the sense of water and I can
Mhm.
take that water. I have kidney issues, so it's really important
Mm.
for me to stay in the flow, to
Mhm.
be in the flow, and to not be afraid
Mhm.
of being in the flow. So that invokes water. When I get
Mm.
to my solar plexus in my body, which is my core, I work out my abs.
Mhm.
I work that fire. I do
Mhm.
my breath of fire. I do my Kapalbhati breathing. I also like engage plank pose
Mhm.
while I do breath of fire, Or maybe even as I'm sitting, I'm tightening my core and I'm pulling and engaging. So that's how I can bring in my body to maintain juiciness. And then
Mm-hmm.
finally, spirit. Spirit is the inner child. Spirit is the inner playfulness. Spirit is the creativity. Spirit is where Kundalini waits. And when we're at the sacral, when we're at the root, that is where the serpent coils. And the serpent is literally a gorgeous metaphor for this, because the snake has no ears. The snake moves based on vibration. So when I get into the spirit of my juiciness, of my first through third chakra, I feel the vibration. I focus on what I like to feel. So I will feel in my root why. I will ask those questions that it's like, why did my soul choose this Indian body, this woman in America? Why? And I dance with that. I don't judge it. And I say, oh, for me to learn how to be fierce. Oh, Indian women don't play drums. Oh, that's why I play drums. Okay? Like, oh, I'm supposed to be quiet. That's why I speak from my pussy. Yes. I get into the sacral and I think, what are my gifts? The gifts that want to come through and want to be shared. What are they here to express? And I let my spirit free. I turn on the music and I move, not according to any choreography, but just what wants to come free. And sometimes I don't move and I sit still, because guess what? I'm still moving. Even when I'm still, my cells are moving in my body and I just feel the dancing that's happening within me. Okay, and then in the solar plexus of what I'm willing to release, in the spirit of that, I alchemize and I burn away all that doesn't serve me. I use visualization and I really think of myself as the phoenix. So that's just first through third chakra. That's how I maintain my juiciness. I travel into the heart, do the same thing: mind, body, spirit. My mind, where does my mind place conditions on how I give and receive love? How? That is the mind. If a man has to do X, Y, and Z to be in my life, that's a condition. A lot of romance is conditional. So I want to get clear with those conditions. Where do they come from? I want to allow my mind in. I never amputate my mind out of my sphere of being. My mind is not a slave. My mind is a part of the duet with my heart. And when my heart and my mind come together, my voice can be activated. You see? So the mind is a beautiful thing. And in the body, I constantly practice moving my torso forward and back. I breathe and I massage my heart and I massage my breast. This maintains my juiciness. It brings my attention back to who I am. And sometimes I just need to just tap my heart. I just tap my sternum. And I just feel that. And I try to bring my juiciness as much as possible. Sometimes I work all day and I feel like I've been twisted. Like all the water is gone from my being. I just take the time. I visit the moon if I can see the moon. Maybe I'll drink some wine and libation. Maybe I'll drink water. Or I'll just sit and tap my heart and remind her that, like, you are abundant and full. Bring it back in. Fill up the well. Fill up the well of your being to serve from the overflow. Fill, 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 fill. That's my body. The spirit is that, I'm in a beautiful class with Master Yao with the Grand Trine. And, like, I'm so thankful to Shofar for introducing me to this work of, taking what I've done as an artist and really bringing it into the energy healing world and understanding, like, what I do as an artist and as a dancer, how it is an energy transfer. And in this beautiful class, we've really been learning about how our orgasmicness, literally our orgasms as women, extend out the breast and the chest. For men, it's in their penis. And for women, our orgasm starts in the heart. Because when we feel fully supported and when we feel that we can be accepted and in our unconditional love, that we actually release all conditions of on ourselves, that we can beam in. We actually choose the lovers that come in. We choose lovers that understand who we are unconditionally. And it
Mm-hmm.
allows us to be the fierce, powerful women that we are. I know some women, so many women that are like, well, if I'm scared to express all my sensuality, I might make people pass out.
It happens.
Right? No,
I know some women like that. Yeah.
yeah, we need that on the planet.
Yeah,
Please
right?
pass a
Mm-hmm.
motherfucker out. We need that
Mm-hmm.
shit. We need people to get shaken out of the matrix and be like, oh God, I can't handle this this energy that you've been bringing to me. Let me get more of that. Let me figure
Yeah.
out what that is. So that is the spirit of the breast. I mean, the breast also, we we manifest milk.
Mm.
We manifest nectar and
Mm-hmm.
nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talk about the patriarchy. My mother was told not to breastfeed me and to give me formula. That's what the health industry told her
Mm-hmm.
in this country.
Yeah, same. But I think my mom was a rebel, or just
Yeah, that
before.
good. God bless your mother. God bless your
And
mother.
yeah, so
You
she
know.
she breastfed us. You know, it's so funny. Last night I was talking to a friend. I was up real late last night working because this week has just it's been a creative. I've gone inward into my feminine and my creativity, and I'm creating new things for my business, right? So
Mm.
I'm really enjoying this week. And my friend was like, "Oh, you're up late." And I said, "Yeah, I'm just working, taking advantage of the night hours." And he said, "I'm pumping out the work." And he said he meant to say beast mode, but he did a typo, breast mode. And I was like, wow, that really is breast mode. Like I'm like beast breast mode for sure.
I love
Like
that. We got
work
to
from
use
the
that.
heart, pumping out the milk, the abundance, and just pumping it out for the
Yes.
whole world. Like, here, let me
Totally.
nourish you.
Feed, nourish,
Yes.
nourish.
And we're happy to do it. The feminine is happy to do it. And that's
Always.
the breast, and that's what Shofar was saying last time too, is, you know, that the feminine always finds a way to love. And it's that it's the breast. And then if you're over nurturing and not taking care of yourself, you can develop breast cancer too. So
Totally.
that's
And most of
something
the
to
time,
face.
the breast cancer is the right breast, which is the
Mm,
masculine,
yeah.
right? Which is like
Mm-hmm.
overdoing,
Mm-hmm.
overdoing,
Yep. Overdoing
and
it.
not being appreciated for how much you're doing,
Yeah.
right?
And
And doing and not being received as well,
mm-hmm.
you know.
And I don't think that women are ever fully appreciated in this society, and I'm speaking generally.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's one of the things that we have to learn also to be juicy, and that's my path has been saying no more and
Oh,
pulling
that's
back,
a beautiful one.
because the less I do, the more I think I'm appreciated. Like that's clear from even that
Right.
presentation that I was sharing about, and with my kids, I start to spoil them or I start to do really nice things, then I get the biggest attitude back. I'm like, what is this about? Oh
Wow, makes
yeah,
sense.
every time. So I have to always be telling myself, pull back. What do you want? Because I'm a very agreeable person too. I have a Libra rising, you know. I'm like, whatever.
Mm.
I'm cool with whatever.
Oh, no, I have an Aries. I'm a Libra moon. That's what it
Libra
is.
moon. Oh, okay. Yeah, so you get it. It's like that sounds fun. This sounds fun too. And we want to bring everybody together in harmony. And I'll make a decision before I even know what I want, because it takes me a while to feel into what it is that I want. So that's my lesson, is
Oh, I
I
love
have to
that.
take the space to feel into like if it's a yes or a no. And I've actually started now, like if it's a text message, it's easy because I can just text back, hold on, let me think about that. Let me meditate on that a bit. But in the moment, I'll just say, okay, hold on, let me close my eyes and check in. And so I actually take a couple breaths and just check in and figure out what it is that I want. And then, you know, also as a Taurus, I'm all into food, nutrition, sleep, all of those things. If I don't have those foundational basics, I'm not feeling very juicy at all. And I
Mm.
need to
So
be
yeah, taking
recharged.
care of your core needs is
Mm-hmm.
going to allow you, and knowing that, your core needs might not be what the next person's
Right.
core needs are, but
Yeah.
being in tune with what you truly need to
Yeah.
thrive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you truly need. And even like I look at my two children, my son is a Taurus, my daughter's a Leo. She needs a lot less sleep than him.
Mm-hmm.
And we, rather than comparing them or saying what's wrong with you, I mean we joke
Right.
about it sometimes, but it's in our household, we're just like, oh yeah, Tauruses need sleep. It's like just a common thing. And so,
I've
brother
noticed
and
that with
I,
Aries too. I don't
yeah.
know, like all the Aries I know,
Do they sleep
they
a lot?
Oh my God, they rest. But it's also because
We
I
got these
think it's be
horns.
yeah, I think it's exactly. I think it's because they do so much. Most of the Taurus I know are also, I mean, Aries that I know are also like the deep people.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
and
think
they're
that they doing a
driven
lot
too.
of work. Like
Oh
they
yeah.
do so much work. And that's definitely a fact, is that I've known that a lot of people who are doing they are doing that spiritual work as Aries. Like they need to get their rest,
Yeah.
because that's where they actually get more downloads, more creativity.
Yeah.
I go through phases myself. I'm a Virgo, but I'm on the cusp of Libra. I go through my phases myself. What I've learned from myself as a Virgo, because I tend to be a perfectionist, like nobody's business,
Mm-hmm.
is that I've learned to like, again, the flow and water, and that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense to why I have kidney issues, right? Because if
Mm-hmm.
I have always tried to be something that I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
I'll go all in to like try to be perfect. So
Mm-hmm.
being in the flow. So for me, there's phases where I'm like the night owl, and I just have to allow the night
Oh,
owl to
that's
come
where I'm
through.
at right now.
Yeah, and then there's moments where it's like, oh, I'm gonna be the early bird. And
Mm-hmm.
right now I'm in the early bird, where like 4:30 my eyes open. Sometimes I'll go into meditation. Sometimes like I'll roll over, sleep on my baby's chest, and like I'll fall right back asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Or but I just like I allow it. Whereas before I'd be like, oh, I'm up, gotta get up. But I do notice that there's this piece of me right now. It's like I get up, I don't go back to bed. I get up to go to the
Mm-hmm.
bathroom, and then I'm like up. And
Mm-hmm.
I allow that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I allow that to happen. And if I need rest, take rest. We
Mm-hmm.
have to really unwind these concepts of time and like how many hours in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Once that does help maintain your juiciness, if you have the capability to do that, and you're not, some folks have to report and come home. But like if you
Yeah.
have the ability to flex time, like flex it and
I've
enjoy
been
it.
thinking about that too. Even, with COVID, it's like it's forcing the world to see what's possible with that.
Right.
Because again, we're forced to be working online and having more flexibility. And to be honest, I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I don't really want my kids to go back to school. I like
Oh
not
yeah,
having
I've
to wake
heard
up at
this.
7 and
You're not
drive
the
them.
only parent.
Really, I just feel like most, I know a lot of people with young kids, and when mine were very, very young, I probably would have been like, yes, I have to go. But now, it's all cool. Like as long as they do their work, I'm doing my work, they're doing their work. It's kind of fun to have them at
Isn't
home.
it?
We're
Isn't
like
it?
co-working.
And it's like how beautiful that you actually even are exchanging biofields.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like
Thank
just
you for
the
bringing that up.
energy of being connected, that
Yeah.
provides juiciness.
Absolutely. I mean, and then we need touch and affection and all of that. And, we are a very affectionate family too. So I get a lot
I
of
love that.
snuggles and cuddles with my kids. And when my daughter's on her moon, she'll come and snuggle in with me. It's the only time she like
Oh.
comes into my bed in the morning at 13. So it's very, very sweet. It's a special, special time. But yeah, all of that it's maintaining juiciness. I'm trying to teach that to my kids too. So that, and I had this thought that I'm hoping that, the world's going to be a very different place for them.
Yeah.
And like even my daughter will, clap back at my son for saying like you're body shaming me or something like that. That's not
I
something I
love
ever said to my
it.
brothers,
Right,
even though it
right.
happened. And so it's just interesting to see how this is shifting. And and then going back to flexing out your time and being more
Yeah.
in your flow, I think that's going to be really important because the planet is made up of half and half of masculine bodied people and feminine
Right.
bodied people. And then there's some that are, more feminine and masculine body, more masculine and feminine body. And those are the folks right here in the middle. But
Hmm.
we have to accommodate both. So how can we accommodate both? Like
Right.
some of us thrive with that flexibility. I do, and sometimes it turns into chaos and then I have to find the balance. But I really enjoy, just being in the flow, and I work at different energies. And if I'm trying to force something to happen when my mind just isn't in that energy, it's just really frustrating. And like you were talking about being in your job and crying and breaking down into tears, that's how
Yeah.
I feel when I've got to like do some kind of like computing or some very
Right.
linear focused tasks. When I'm not in a focused space, it's just very, very hard on my brain. and
Totally.
and so it's nice to have more control of your schedule. And then other people are they need that structure and they need that rigid thing. But I feel like that's what happens a lot as a woman, is that men look at us, and I did a post about this week too on Instagram, like men will look at us and say that we're lazy or we're not
Oh, right.
very productive or whatever because they're not seeing the immediate results. They're used to these 24-hour cycles, during the
Right,
day.
right.
And we operate on 28-day cycles. So,
True.
yeah,
Like,
very
this is
interesting.
transformational leadership to me.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
This is what transformational leadership is.
Mm-hmm.
But so much of what we are doing with transformational leadership, and so much of what we're doing, with organizational leadership and cultural competency, it's feeding into the same conditioning. We're
Mm-hmm.
still training, we're training the next generation to be just as robotic as the first. But
Well,
transformational would be really nice if, like what you're talking about, we could actually tune into the way people are and
right.
provide them with ways that they could really excel in their field.
Because what happens is if you keep that same patriarchal linear structure, but then you add all of these other things in, like, oh, cultural competency and this and that and this and that, and then, oh, you got to do this too. And then it just piles it on rather than looking at the structure and being like, wait a minute, we got to change it up,
Right.
and and see where we can be more streamlined and keep it simple but honor everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, and that being an administrator too, like that's a perfect laboratory for that kind of stuff is looking at a school system.
Totally.
Hmm. Well, how should we end this tonight? I feel like I've learned, Kirti, that when I go on with you, there's so much like passion and fire between us. Like when we're getting on these topics, I have to eat dinner before I go on. And so I did that tonight. If I wait and I
Nice.
wait to have dinner later, I'm like, whew, I get wiped out. So I came prepared today, but I'm aware of the time. So how should we wrap this up?
We can wrap this up with a really cool exercise that I
Hmm.
do and with my creativity consciousness. And it's an I am
Hmm.
exercise.
Hmm.
And we can kind of, like, in terms of facilitating your juiciness, it's
Mm.
about understanding who you are, what are
Hmm.
your gifts to share, and what are you willing to release. So
Hmm.
I'm going to start by saying, like, I am something, and then you're going to respond to me by saying you are something, and what
Oh,
I
sure.
say can inspire your response,
Hmm.
or it might ignite a totally new response. So what
Okay.
makes this improv, this is kind of like bringing in theater and poetry and
Uh-huh.
expression. So
So at home, people should have a partner to do this.
they can, or they can do it in the mirror
Okay.
and look at themselves and just freestyle and free flow. You can also journal any of these things.
Hmm.
And what makes it improvisational is that we're doing this live and I'm not giving you time to think about it.
Okay.
All right. So we'll start with I am, and then
Hmm.
I have like about 5 more minutes. So we'll see how far we get with that. How does
Okay.
that sound? Okay.
Hmm.
All right. I am a daughter.
I am a mother.
I'm a sister.
I wish I was a brother. No, I no. I had so many brothers. That's how I felt growing up. I am a strong, powerful, equally balanced masculine, feminine woman.
mm, I am free.
I am liberated.
Mm. I am open.
I am. I am. Just keep having this imagery of a bird. I am flying.
Yes, beautiful. I am wings.
Mm, I'm an angel.
Beautiful. Okay. We're going to go into my gifts to share, second
Mm,
chakra. Okay, so
mm-hmm.
we're getting our juiciness back into the second chakra. I share my passion.
And then I say the same thing. I
I
share.
share.
Okay. And it should be a my something. Okay.
Something that you
Okay.
won't share.
I share my laughter.
I share my movement.
I share my knowledge.
I share my laughter.
I share my passion.
mm-hmm. I share my voice.
Ooh, I share my voice.
I share my orgasmicness.
Ooh, I share my drive.
Mm. I share my direction.
I share my curiosity.
Mm. I share my sensuality.
Ooh, I share my juiciness.
I share my fruits of labor.
Mm. I share my overflowing cup.
I share my thirst.
Mm. I share my um, I share my compassion.
I share my empathy.
I share my love.
Beautiful. That's a good bow on that. And the next one is, so according to who you are, the I
Mhm,
am,
mhm,
and because of the gifts that you have to share, you know that we have to release some
mhm,
shit
mhm,
so that we can allow this new energy and this newness to emerge. So
mhm.
the next one is, I am willing to release.
Mm.
Okay. I am willing to release my anger.
Mm. I'm willing to release perfectionism.
I am willing to release jealousy.
Mm. I'm willing to release judgment.
I am willing to release self loathing behavior.
I am willing to release anger.
Mm-hmm. I am willing to release egoic thoughts.
I am willing to release expectations.
I am willing to release being right.
Mm. I'm willing to release being too much.
I am willing to release being wrong.
I'm willing to release frustration.
I am willing to release exhaustion.
I'm willing to release overwhelm.
I am willing to release stress.
I am willing to release tension.
I am willing to release dis-ease.
I am willing to release mediocrity.
I am willing to release weakness.
I am willing to release being the strong one.
Yeah. I am willing to release low self-esteem.
I'm going to second that one. I'm willing to release low self esteem.
Okay. Taking 3 breaths together.
Mm-hmm.
Just now in this inhale, we're going to actually visualize and use our imaginations now that we've activated our creative consciousness. Abundance. So fill up the belly and fill up the chest first. And really fill it. And in your mind, use your imagination to fill it up with all that you are: sister, daughter, mother, powerful women. Fill it up, that feeling of everything that you are. And then as you exhale, be willing to release all that doesn't serve you and that holds you back from being that. And really just visualize letting all of that go. And then on the second breath, you're going to inhale and fill up the chest and the trunk, but also fill up the lower half of the body, the hips, the thighs, the legs, the feet. Fill it all up with the breath. There's so much to be had, and there's enough to fill in the whole chest and the bottom half of the body with all of your gifts. And then on your exhale, be willing to release all those gifts and share them. They are not yours, but they are there to share. And then on your final breath for this practice tonight, we're going to fill up the trunk of the body. That's the belly and the chest, the back and the low back. Fill up the hips, fill up the lower half of the body. And then fill up the arms, the shoulders, the elbows, the wrists, the fingertips. Even fill up the crown, fill up the cranium, fill up the mind, and hold your breath and think of all of the things that you are, the gifts that you desire to share. Fill it up completely. Let it come in. Hold your breath for yourself. Show up for yourself. You can do that until you reach that beautiful tension where you cannot hold your breath any longer. So continuously hold, even sip in the air. There is so much abundance. Sip it in, sip it in even more. Fill it up all the way up. And as you exhale, allow everything you have, you are, your gifts to share to just beam out of your being into your biofield and beyond your biofield, perhaps down the block, into the city. And even if you can, from the city, across the nation, around the globe, embracing Mother Earth with who you are. You can do this practice as much as you want until the visions get real, real clear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Love you.
I love you too.
Mm.
It was fun to, as always, to be here and go through all of it. We covered a lot.
We did it again. Always seems to come through all the right things to speak on, channeling the collective, healing ourselves, heals the planet.
Yeah. So I wanted everybody to know about your class that's coming up because it's really awesome.
Which one? Oh, racism.
Saturday.
Yes. So my partner and I, Shofar Graves of Faux Show Wellness, we are teaching a course on racism, and we're bringing attention to all of the isms and really breaking the shackles, breaking the conditioning around that. And, from classism to intellectualism, sexism, and materialism. And honestly, you could even throw ableism as well in there, from able bodied people and those of us who are dealing with illness. I was thinking about that today, just from my journey, like that was a big part of my life. So, just from being born left-handed and being forced to be right-handed. I thought about that quite a bit today. Don't ask me why. Probably because I'm accessing lots of work right now. So yeah, breaking through the isms. And so what it is, the course is it's a series of exercises through breath, movement, and sound and meditations that allow us to understand our privilege points. Our privilege points from the bodies that we've been chosen, from the bodies our souls have chosen. So for example, my partner, his privilege points blow me out the water from being a man, but my privilege points blow him out the water from my intellectualism and all my degrees and my access to education. And so it kind of helps us understand that within the system of patriarchy and capitalism, we truly, all of us are navigating this the best that we can. So if we can just understand each other's pain points and we practice a process of venting and nonviolent communication, right? And compassionate communication and speaking from the wound in a structured way where other people can actually empathize with our pain instead of us blaming with our pain and shaming and guilting. We can all evolve together, and when we understand one another's struggle, we break all barriers. And so that's really the idea of the course. So we invite everybody to come. There's scholarships available for folks who cannot or do not desire to afford the full amount, and you can reach out to us, and we're totally willing to provide scholarships to those who desire it. And what the biggest part of this is, this came out of the Soul of Yoga in Encinitas reaching out to Shofar and I because they were willing to own that they have not been very diverse.
Oh, wow. And I've heard good things about that studio. I've never been there, but I've
It's
been
a
wanting
gorgeous
to visit.
studio, and it was awesome. The owner reached out to each of us individually and owned, some of the things that, we had navigated trying to teach our workshops there. And they took full ownership, and they were like, how can we support the work you're doing now? And to me, that is just profound, and that speaks volumes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And good on you also for being open and in
That's what it takes,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy to be angry, but anger's not working right now.
Oh yeah.
Black people are still being killed in the street, women are
You're right.
still being raped, and
Right.
children are still being taken advantage of. So I think that it's time to embrace the wound even more
Well,
fiercely.
right, because it's okay to feel the anger is natural, but to use it as a tool or weapon isn't working, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we have to
exactly.
find other tools as well. Okay, so is it live at Soul of Yoga and then it's live
It's
stream too?
actually it's live stream. It's all live
All
stream, and
live
we
stream.
we take a
Okay.
break, an hour break for lunch, where we'll have an assignment as you eat. We're also, of
Hmm.
course, knowing Shofar and I, we're going to build sensuality into this somehow. So
Of
we
course.
do believe that lovemaking will heal the planet and racism.
Well,
Um,
and that's another episode that I'll point people to if you want to hear more about that. Shafar and I
yeah.
did an episode. It's actually not on YouTube, it's on my Instagram, but it's evolving through racism
Oh, I
through
love it.
sex, sensual energy exchange is what we spoke on.
Yes. Oh,
It's
I
a
love that.
really great episode, really great conversation. So I'm so glad that you're bringing that in. And maybe this is a good ending point, ending thought too, is that people, when there's so much chaos and everything going on in the world, and people are like, what are these two ladies doing talking about sex? Like, really, are they that self-absorbed? That's all they care about. They're not really looking at what's going on in the world. And that's exactly why we're talking about
Yeah.
sex, is
Ashe.
because anger isn't working, violence isn't working,
Yes.
love is working, love making. Like Shafar said in the episode, orgasm is a release of tension. The
Oh,
world is
yeah.
in tension right now, conflict, tension. We need a big, massive orgasm. So this is where we're going. We're going like taking that big bird's eye view, like you said, the thread going all the way through
Yeah.
and looking at these foundations of human existence and creativity. If we want to create another world, then we need to be dropping into that creativity, starting with the Kundalini, the
Yes.
sexuality, all of that. So
That's how we
that's
all got here in
that's
the
it.
first
That's how we
place.
got here. Yep. That's what made us. So thank you for a beautiful, beautiful topic. I'm looking forward to meeting again in 2 weeks.
Yes.
We'll let anybody know that's still with us. Please message us, comments. What do you want to hear about? We want to talk about it.
Yes.
As
Yes,
you
we
can
do.
see, we can talk. All right. Good night,
Love you.
everyone. Love you too. Thank you, Kirti. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Adios.
Bye.